the first to know Nsem-Pii TV.
Memo akwaba bimba Nsem-Pii TV so. Former President John Dramani Mahama the flabber for NDC ana openi anu ayinika. Akojina Nsem-Pii so di Nsem-Pii abetu dwa se Ghana for wo ahochirimpa na nyame na dom na 2024 general election so timi bedi omampani bi mu a owene no be omampani bi mu a oba be yi Ghana afri ahochira Ghana for ewo mu no. I see the NDC mantra and agenda omde nam rescue mission. And now Dr.Bawumia the vice president of Ghana, the flabber for NPP assembly the kumniko kwa panibu free pa obe reply former president John Mahama say abrana on NDC power no ahochira oma Ghana for kum. No na his excellency na Adanko Akufo-Addo and ono Dr.Bawumia as vice president adaoma ana ahochira former president John Mahama and the NDC ma Ghana for kum no omabebre na se and aside ankase say there ke ni ba bia susua de body hono akogu. In fact wa fire former president John Mahama yi pa ni nyina dia 2024 general election. A message Bekonia Kuti, the Vice President of Ghana, and the flabber for NPP, Dr.Bawumia, and Sema or the two.
Now, NPP Frank Atufo, Vice President Dr. Bawumia, were also Chesania Kanem and Penny, JDM, John Mahama, and what did a campaign, Efrasia, when so den ya Wobisano, a Nsem-Pii, and answer questions, Ahurwa, someone Dr. Bawumia, Ebisa, JDM, NSA. What Chesa wa banwa wasi wasa baby no abeya dian sa rescue mission Ghana mission no JDM HM se wode eba no adan en wote so asa mampanyi ne de keke ka ho no eno no wanye na Ghana nso no kire se yeni nkwaso mu wate ase sani a opanyi no kire no wo bia ho to no na na ado abere so enti wo so de rescue mission eba when wo so wa Ghana ha wo ba abeje no yentie Dr. Bawumia e wasase radio so.
I don't know where they're coming from. You know, they don't have a leg to stand on that particular question of hardships. You know, we came into office when Ghanaians were really under severe hardship because of the economic mismanagement of the NDC. You recall, there could be no more hardship than 4 years of doomsday that Ghanaians had to endure 4 years. Jobs lost, people died, businesses collapsed, you know, because of doomsday. It's a serious occurrence that Ghanaians lived under. You know, you had a situation where the National Health Insurance Scheme had reverted to cash and carry. That was real hardship because people who were poor, who could not afford the cash to carry, were not given health care. The card wasn't being accepted. So, because the government could not pay the service providers, you had these huge arrears. And so there was real hardship. The ambulance service basically had collapsed. You had no working ambulance services, very few ambulances. And so if you look at the impact of there not being an ambulance service, that's a lot of suffering for people who need an ambulance. In fact, the new ambulances that have been provided have shown, and when you look at the data, the calls that have increased, means a lot of lives are being saved. You know, without of that, the hardships of the teacher trainees who got their allowances cancelled, you know, and they were reliant. And a lot of these teacher trainees, in fact, they were having families that relied on these allowances. The allowances of the nursing trainees were also cancelled. Arabic instructors' allowances cancelled. You look at the recruitment, the job situation. We had so much unemployment under their regime. And that unemployment, we even had a Graduates Unemployed Association, right? For the first time in our history. That unemployment, you know, was the result of their government's inability to get the private sector going, and also to recruit into the public service, because there was a freeze on recruitment. So you'd find nurses would finish for 4 years and they would be sitting at home after their training. Same with teachers and so on. And there was no recruitment. Agric extension officers, no recruitment. There was just so much unemployment in there, and that was hardships to people who could not find a job to do. Teachers were paid 3 months for 3 years work, right? The 3-month pay policy, right? So these were real hardships that people were enduring under the NDC. Doom stories over under the MPP. We've restored teacher training allowance. We've restored nursing training allowance. We've restored Arabic instructors allowance. We've rebuilt the National Ambulance Service. One constituency, one ambulance. We've rejuvenated the agricultural sector, increased growth from about less than 3% to over 8%. Ghana is now exporting 19 different crops to our neighboring countries. We have moved up in terms of food security in the Global Food Security Index from a number 78 position in 2016 to 59 position now. So cocoa farmers are doing better. The living income differential, the access to fertilizer is much better. You have, as I said, one constituency, one ambulance. You are hiring people in the jobs. So we've created close to over 2 million jobs that we have created across the chain. Planting for Food and Jobs, Nation Builders Call for graduates, 100,000. The teachers, over 90,000. The nursing and health personnel, over 90,000. Afforestation jobs. We have created a lot of jobs. NEIP, over 90,000 jobs, and so on. So when you talk about suffering, the National Health Insurance is working again. When you talk about suffering, for sure, we have reduced suffering. That's the point. We haven't eliminated suffering. I think that is always going to be a work in progress as you deal with the economy. You cannot say you have eliminated suffering. But compared to what we inherited from the NDC, we have reduced a lot of suffering. Free senior high school is saving parents 2.2 billion Ghana cedis. Now, that would have been money they would have had to pay. And a lot of suffering. A lot of mothers had to sell their precious possessions, and fathers had to look for money to just send the kid to school. A lot of girls that you would have seen doing KIA today are going to school that you're seeing. In fact, one of my friends said that maids are difficult to find in Accra these days because the kids are all going to school, and the parents have come and taken them and they're going to school. They were suffering before. The free SHS has reduced that suffering. So we are doing a lot of targeted things, expanded the school feeding program by 78%, LEAP program expanded it by 53%. In just first term, so we are doing a lot that is reducing the suffering of our people. We have not eliminated it, but we are in a much, much better position. The economy is in a much, much better position to deliver better livelihoods. You've never seen a government, Nanaya, in this country that says free water for 9 months or free electricity for lifeline consumers for 9 months. It has never happened.
Well, but you raise a question there that I wanted to ask you, because this story of success and unquestionable upward swing, ending 2019 on the year of return and the high that brought and the fantastic economic performance of 2019, was of course partly derailed by the advent of COVID, which without question has knocked all countries across the world for six. So do you not think that there is some justification in the sense that, as the NDC would put it, the trajectory that we took, which they see it as a high borrowing and high spending approach to get us to the point where we ended 2019, has been knocked off course by 2020? Well,
I think that what is clear, as you have said, Nanaya, is that COVID has really impacted adversely almost every economy in the world because of its impact on growth, its impact on government revenues, and so on. And Ghana has not been left out. We have also been impacted. And the Minister of Finance had to go back to Parliament to present a revised budget given the implications of COVID. Before COVID, we were looking at deficits of under 5%, given the fiscal rule that we had been operating under since 2017 coming into play. We really had brought down the deficits to under 5%. Right? And that was a remarkable achievement all through to 2019. Of course, COVID presented a different case where we had to come in and protect lives and livelihoods, right? Whether it's Germany, whether it's the UK, whether it's America, even Angela Merkel said, we are not going to be looking at the statistics now. We're going to be looking at lives, right? So the president, very, very smartly said, right now, economic management is going to be focused on protecting lives and livelihoods. We want to save our people from COVID, right? And so the deficit, because revenues are falling, expenditures have to go up also to protect lives and livelihoods, PPEs, and when you ask people to stay home, they use more electricity. We want people to wash their hands, and we have to give incentives to businesses which were collapsing, and we have to give incentives to the health sector, professionals who are saving our lives. So when you look at all of that, it meant the expenditures had to go up, even in the face of declining revenues. But we knew that this was something we had to do to save the economy, because we knew how to manage the economy. We knew how to get this economy growing again, as the president said, but we didn't know how to bring a life back. So the focus in terms of the prioritization was on lives and livelihoods. So you'd see that the deficit in 2020, we're projecting about 11.4% or so of a deficit in 2020. And that is fine. We know that once we get back on course, back to the course of fiscal discipline, which we will, then we will get back. And currently you are seeing the latest Bank of Ghana monetary policy report tells you that the latest data on economic activity is showing a much quicker bounce back than we had initially scheduled, because that is showing an underlying resilience of the economy. And that underlying resilience is partly because of the measures that we put in place. We reduced interest rates during the COVID, and we had fiscal stimulus at the same time to help the businesses. And we've been able to manage the health side as well as manage the economic side. That balance has been kept, and we are looking forward to the future now.
We're talking about looking forward to the future. Obviously, you are very hopeful that on December the 7th, that the Ghanaian people will re-elect the New Patriotic Party.
Yes.
And the Dr.Bawumia ticket
yes.
and return you to Jubilee House.
Yes.
Given all you have said about the changed environment, the need for a stimulus, how do you see the stimulus impacting in a Nana Akufo-Addo-Bawumia Mark II government? What's going to be the impact on jobs, infrastructure, education?
Well, I think that these are critical areas. When you look at, by the grace of God, we win this election and we move into phase 2 or Mark II, as you put it, the whole issue is about transformation of this economy. We started it in our first term, and you're looking at job creation, but to get the job creation, you want to improve agricultural productivity, you want to industrialize. And this is why we started planting for food in jobs, rearing for food in jobs, we're planting for export and rural development. We've really transformed the agric sector. The cocoa sector, we've introduced hand pollination, which is increasing productivity. A harvest of about 2.5 bags per hectare. We're now getting up to 41 bags per hectare. That's a massive increase in productivity. And then you have the arrangement we've had with Côte d'Ivoire on the living income differential to add, $400 per ton for all cocoa farmers. That has resulted in a 28% increase in cocoa prices this year. That's historic. It's never happened. We've always been trying to see how we use the power that we have. The two countries controlling almost 68% of the market in the world. But where Akufo-Addo has come and has gotten together with President Ouattara, and we're saying, no, we are going to also have some market power, and we demand this living incomes for our farmers. And the buyers have agreed, and they've given us this $400 per metric ton living income differential. And all of these things are starting. We just did the Tree Crop Development Authority, right? And you are looking at crops like coconuts, mangoes, shea, cashews, rubber, oil palm. These are 6 major crops that we are looking at that are going to yield almost 7 times more than cocoa is giving us, right? So the Tree Crop Development Authority is going to be for the cashew, mangoes, coconuts, and rubber, shea, and oil palm, what Cocoa Board has been to the cocoa industry. And we've been talking about this and talking about it and not doing it. Now, under Nana Akufo-Addo, we've done this. We've also brought in a cocoa pension scheme for cocoa farmers, massive new policy. So the agric side in our second term, we're going to see a consolidation and acceleration, because these